Hey everyone, I'm gonna do just a little bit of a walkthrough through these unit. I think they're Unit 6 projects. I think it calls it Section 5 inside of your course resources folder. But yeah, we know that the sections are one behind the units. You guys know that already. So, but it is Unit 6 in the OHS, and it's all about callback functions and taking user interaction and letting the user decide what they want to do with our file. So rather than what we've been doing the whole year is you double click on a file and then it just runs, right? Well, or it might ask for some input from the user. Some of your other projects do that. But for this project, it's about interacting with the keys. Okay, now you need to set up your IDLE interactive shortcut. Okay, now there are instructions to that in the OHS. If you are having trouble setting up your IDLE interactive, please let me know. I'd like to get like a feel of how many students are having trouble, or just, you know, if there are any students who are having trouble setting that up. But you can create these files using a regular IDLE. And then send them to me, and then I can compile them on my end using my IDLE interactive. So even if you don't get that set up, you can still create these files. So let me just highlight the two today that are by far the most important, and I'm going to show you enough here that maybe you can complete these, or you can complete these based on what I'm going to try to teach you today. So like I said, you can still, you know, you can use the OHS material. It's great. But if you want to watch this video and go through this video with me, you can do that as well. So the first one I'm going to look at is 5B. Now 5B, we know, are these corrections, the error corrections. So all of you, regardless of what, you know, if you have access to anything, can complete this one right here. So open up this file, debug it, which means, you know, go through it, find all the errors, and then go ahead and submit it. So this one is just like all the other B assignments, so please do that one first. I'm not super concerned about 5A for this unit. I'm probably going to end up dropping 5A as an assignment just because it's a good assignment and there's good things to do with it. And if you do it, I'm going to give you some credit, but I don't know if I'm going to let it count against you just because there's a few issues with the assignment. So, but let's look at 5C. 5C is the really important one, okay? So I'm going to look at 5C, but what I'm going to do, rather than opening it up, is I'm going to open up a blank, new text file. Now I'm going to open up mine in Notepad++. I like Notepad++ a lot better than I do the regular IDLE. But you are free. Make sure that you do this in your interactive IDLE. So you can see I've got some Unity C# code here, but I'm just going to create a new one. And let's designate the language as Python. Now, like I said, this is definitely something if you want to do your code using like a Notepad++ or a different text editor, that's fine. Just make sure that once you complete them, that you're copying and pasting them over into those that Python text file, because it's already got the built-in compiler, and Python is a language that needs to be compiled. But I'm going to use this one because I like the color coding of this one. It's easier for me. So let's bring in our turtle, because we know we're going to use our turtle function. Our turtle functions. So let's bring that in. So that's easy. We all know how to bring that in. And I've got my notes over here, so I'm going to be looking back and forth. But what we're doing in this assignment is we want to create two functions that will draw shapes. Now this you've done so many times already. So I would just challenge you to go ahead and create two functions that draw some kind of shape. But the difference is I want you to use a for loop. So just like you did back in Unit 5, I want you to use a for loop inside to create your function. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'll speed the video up a little bit after I've coded a little bit, but I'm going to create a really quick function that will draw a shape. So I'll be back in just a second. All right, so I've put in my code. Now this is super, like, I'm going to go over each part of this code with you really quick, but it's actually really simple. It's not very complex. It's very similar to what you were doing at the beginning of the year whenever you guys were creating shapes. The only difference is we're doing it on a loop. So, and it's just creating a lot of these. So let me show you what we're talking about. So I've defined my new function called draw spiral, because that's what I want to call my function. Under my function, I have designated the color, all right, the width, the speed, and I've created a variable called crawl and equals 5. I've just set it equal to 5. Now this could be any number I want, but I'm going to leave it to 5. Now, what's funny is a lot of you have been thinking that crawl is like this built-in turtle function or something. Like crawl is just a variable that we're creating. So we've created this variable called crawl, and it's just going to hold this value of 5, which is you know, a constant. I want this to stay the same throughout the code. Now, then I'm going to create my for loop. Make sure that it's indented once. So we can see that this is indented one time, which means it's inside of my function. Then everything under the for loop is indented another time, which means it's inside of my for loop. So make sure that this indentation, this like staircase idea is really important in Python. This is how Python designates what's under a function. Now, other programming language might use like the little squiggly bracket or hard brackets, or there's a lot of other ways, but Python uses indentation. So make sure that you have these indentions done properly. So what I'm saying is that for I in range of 20, so I'm setting up how many times I want this for loop to run, which is going to be, unless I'm adding to it, it would end up being, 20 times. But let's see what happens here. So for I in range 20, we're going to go forward crawl, which is just 5. Okay, that's my constant. So the turtle is going to move forward. It's going to go to the right 95. It's going to go forward crawl plus 10, which is 15. Left 20. Forward negative crawl, so back 5. Right 45. Crawl equals crawl plus 3. All right. And if you want to test this out, I'm going to let you test out and run this code on your own. But trust me when I say this is going to draw a spiral. So the only difference is here, and this is the big difference. This is where this project's going to come in. Now, you need 2 of these. So what I would challenge you to do, and this is going to be the part that you're going to do on your own, I want you to go define another function with another for loop that draws a different shape. And you guys know how to draw shapes. You just want to put them in there and put them inside of a for loop. So you could do an octagon or circle, or I challenge you not to do a circle because circles are easy. There's a circle function, right? So try to draw something interesting, maybe a letter or something like that. So let's pretend we've defined our second function here. And I'm not going to bring that one in because I want you guys to do that on your own. Yeah, we need to move our turtle to the original position. Now, this is another thing that you guys have done a lot. So I'm just going to I'm going to copy and paste some generic code to create a function to move my turtle to where I want him to be, move turtle. And you probably have this in your code already from your Hello World or any of those assignments. Let me see here. Let me enter down so you can see because my face is in the way. Actually, watch this. We'll put my face over here. There we go. Look at that. Live editing, right? All right, so we have this new function called move turtle, which is going to get our turtle to the right spot to start our code. All right, cool. Now, the big difference here is normally what we've been doing is I would just call draw spiral, right? And this right here, this piece of code, this works. All right, so draw spiral. Draw spiral has been defined and it has been called. So this would call the function. I could run this Python program and it would run this. Now, but we're going to do this a little bit different. Rather than have just run them, I want us to allow the user to tell us to run these functions by pressing a key. Okay. Now this is where the Python interactive comes in. This is a very important function that's built into Python called listen. Now the listen function, like I said, it's a built-in function. The listen function, like quite literally, listens for a function every frame. So every frame your computer's running, whether it's like 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second, it's listening. It's queuing. It's saying, hey, what, like, do I hear this key? Do I hear this key? Do I hear this key? It's just listening. It's waiting for you. All right. So this listen puts Python interactive, the Python interactive that you'll be running, it puts it in this state of listening. So now that Python's listening to us, we have to say, well, what are you listening for? Well, we're going to run this other function called onKey. Okay, and onKey is a really cool function that has 2 arguments. The first argument is going to be the function that you want it to run when the key is pressed. So whatever that function is, in our case, it's called draw spiral. All right, now this could be any function, and this is going to get really cool. Okay, this is where you can really get interactive with Python. So we're saying draw spiral, which is the function that we created up here. Okay, and then the second part is going to be the key that you want the user to press to run that function. Now, spiral, that starts with an S, so let's put S, and then let's close the parentheses, and that's it. All right, so we have this really cool, and I'm just going to get rid of define move turtle. Now, normally I would call move turtle. Actually, I can do that here. Let's go ahead and call it right here. So let's call move turtle. If I was doing this project, I would call move turtle on its own, so you can see both ways that functions are called. So when this Python program starts, it's going to look down through here and it's going to see if there's anything that it needs to run right off the bat without any user activity. And sure enough, there is. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to move the turtle to this position. So it's going to move the turtle. It's going to run all this code under this move turtle function because it's been called. The next thing it's going to do is it's going to look at the next function that we called, which is listen. So Python's like, okay, I'm ready. It stops and it starts thinking. It's ready. It's waiting for the user to do something. The next thing it's going to do is it sees the onKey function. So it knows it's waiting on a key, and it knows it's waiting on the S key. When the user presses the S key, it's going to call whatever function is in this argument, which is draw spiral. So by running this program through our Python interactive, it's going to sit there and it's going to look like nothing's happening. We hit the S key, then it's going to draw the spiral. Now here's the cool part. We hit the S key again, it's going to draw another spiral. And the S key again, it's going to draw another spiral. Okay? Now, which is really cool. Now here is the really, really cool part. And this is the part that we're going to go over in class today, so I hope all of you are in the live class today. This is the part we're going to go over. You can have multiple on keys. You can have an on key set up for every key on your keyboard. If you have multiple turtles and multiple on keys, you can run functions at the same time by pressing different on keys, which sounds crazy, and we're going to explain this in class, but that is what a callback function is. So we can actually run functions all at the same time, hitting different keys, and make all kinds of cool stuff happen. And if you have multiple turtles, you can even make them happen at the same time. And they're just available to you all the time, and it's really cool. So rather than having to call the function over and over and over and over again, or even looping it over and over again, the user can run them all at the same time. So for your assignment 5C, this is for assignment 5C, and remember, this is probably going to replace 5A. So if you do 5B and you do this assignment that I'm about to tell you right now, you're good for Unit 6. So here you go. I want you to create 2. All right, so wait, I just minimized that. That's one of the reasons I like Notepad++, because you can do stuff like this. So I want you to create another shape. It can be any shape you want. I want you to put it in a for loop, or just like this. So create your shape. It could be, like I said, anything you want. And then I want you to create a different on key for that function. So just create another on key function. Put the name of your function inside of the argument. Call it on a different key. And then here's the big one. I'm going to put a comment right here for you. Here's the big one, and this is the one where you're going to have to go into the documentation and do a little research. I want you to create an on-key function to close Python. So this is your big test. This is the one that I'm going to test you on. This is the one that's going to get you the grade, okay? I want you to look through the documentation, do some research. I want you to create an on-key function. All right, and if you've really been paying attention, you pay attention to the way that we do on keys, this should be pretty simple. To exit the program when you hit a certain key. Now that can be any key you want, Q, escape, enter, whatever. Some are easier than others, but I want you to create a function that closes Python when you hit a key, okay? So 2 shapes, 2 calls, and a key to exit. If you can create that file and send it to me, then Unit 5, Assignment 5C will be graded. I'll also replace Assignment 5A with this grade, which will be really cool for everyone. That's kind of like a free assignment. And then, like I said, debug 5B, and then you are golden for for Unit 5. So, or Unit 6, Section 5. So also remember that the midterm assessment will be posted tomorrow morning, but you will not be getting your review till next week. So remember, just like all the other assessments, the IA exams, if you want to get a good review, wait just a little while and get your review next week. Good luck everyone with this assignment. I hope that I get a lot of submissions today and tomorrow. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in class in just a minute.